Hello everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at Oafmatch, which is kind of a funny name. This is a game published by NetCore games, as you can see down here. Which is interesting to me because if you don't know who NetCore is, they made ToME, Tales of Maj'El, the extremely excellent classic style roguelike that I adore greatly and have put way too much time into over the last several years. So when I saw that they were actually going to start publishing something, I was immediately interested to see what it was. And as it turns out, it's something that I quite enjoy, a type of game that doesn't come along all that often on PC. Stuff like this is much more common on mobile. So whenever I get the chance to, try one out, I definitely will. This is a match 3 RPG. You know, the kind of game where you are presented with a board of tokens and you try and line up 3 in a row and fight other monsters in that way. Things like Puzzle Quest and games like that. And this is actually quite enjoyable, and what you've got here is kind of a package of multiple game modes, but what I'm going to be showing you in this video is the campaign. So if I hit continue, as you can see I've played it quite a lot, I've got a lot of stars going on, and these stars are not a mobile game-esque rating system. I'll show you what those are in a minute. So, here's the map. I'm not very far into this area. So if I go to the world map here, you can see that I'm in the 3rd area of the campaign, and there are several more. And each campaign area has a lot of different missions and things that you can go do. There are different types of missions, as you can see, denoted by the colors of the nodes. There are also these you could kind of call them like cutscenes, essentially. Different things that you can go to where your characters will talk and tell you where you should go next, and you can also find new characters that way, and you can also find towns where you can buy stuff and accept quests, and even arena battles that are like kind of infinite battles. They go on infinitely until you lose, and you get rewards depending on which wave of enemies you made it to, and things like that. There's actually a lot here in the campaign. So, here we go. This is my party. You'll notice that there are a crap load of characters. There are a huge number of characters in this game. And you'll also notice that there are all these colors here. And, of course, as you may guess, these denote the tokens that you're going to be matching. And every token is, or gem, I guess you could call them, actually denotes a specific stat. So every character has 2 stats, a major and a minor. As you can tell by the equipment they have here, or you can just hover over them and it tells you what they do. So the blue, for instance, is intelligence, and the yellow is dexterity. They will always have, in the major stat will always be, of course, their higher one, and their secondary will be a lot lower, about half as much. About. Not exactly. And you will want to have as many of the colors represented in your party of 4 as possible, so that every time you match, you get a good amount of damage on the enemies. You don't want, like, paltry damage, because the enemies will certainly not be doing paltry damage to you most of the time. And there's a character that represents every single, as you can see, every single combination. So if you want a red-yellow, that would be this character right here. Or a purple-white, that would be this character right here, or this guy. So the one on the left here will be the primary, and the one on top will be the secondary. And it takes a while, but you can, you'll eventually be able to find and unlock every single one of these. And to change them out, all you gotta do is just click them and put them wherever you want. Very easy, very cool. I like that quite a lot. And this is my current setup. There is no experience, but they do level up. As you can see, they're all level 37. And the level increases both their stats, their primary and secondary stats, as well as their maximum health. And leveling is done by getting gold, and then spending it to train them, and it levels up every one you have unlocked by 1 level every time you train, and of course the next training goes up in price every time you do this. As you can see, everyone can also have equipment, and this is the equipment screen. Very colorful. Every piece of equipment has its stat, and everyone of course has an equipment slot that matches their primary and secondary stats. And you'll be wanting to equip them with varying things depending on the roles that you think they'll fit. And also do note that every piece of equipment has 5 ranks. You'll see these little Roman numerals in the bottom left of the equipment icon. Some of them are 1, some of them are 2s, this one's a 3. If you find the same piece of equipment again, or you're awarded it or buy it again, it will increase its rank up again, and that will empower it, make it even stronger. And as far as I know, it keeps its mana cost the same when you do this, which basically means it just gets inherently more valuable and powerful every time, which is a big deal. And they all do different things. I mean, there's a lot of variety here, and do note that this isn't all of the equipment, I don't think. So if you like fill this screen up, that isn't actually it. I believe there's another screen beyond this once you get more that fills up as well, that's a lot of stuff, a lot of variety. But just for convenience's sake, but overall I really like the system because of the huge amount of variety that's here. And enemies can use equipment as well, by the way, so beware of that. So yeah, I'm just currently rolling with this setup. It's working fairly well. And finally you have potions, which don't work exactly like you think. They're not consumed. You keep potions forever once you unlock them. You can equip up to 2 for a given battle, and each one has its own thing. So there are potions for every stat, which I'm using 2 of those right now, one for strength and one for constitution, that increase for the entire battle each character's stat by 50% of its value, so, you know, they hit harder, essentially. And there's also the mana potions, because at the beginning of a new wave, as you'll see, your mana resets. You've also got a healing potion, so you heal at the beginning of a new enemy wave. I've got this regeneration potion, which I may end up using if I replace my cleric, because the cleric actually heals you when you match specific colors. So if I replace him, I won't have that healing, but this regen potion actually makes everyone leech health, which sounds really nice. So if I have no cleric, I might end up using that. And as you can see, there's a lot of potions besides those. So here's how the game works. This node right here has a fight. You investigate the area and you will see what you're going to go up against. You'll be able to see the enemies, see what they do. As you can see, everyone has not just stats, but also a particular sort of passive ability. Everyone has one of these, which is really cool, by the way, because that adds a lot of variety to the characters. And you'll also be able to see what they're equipped with and the level of the equipment that they're equipped with. You can also, this is why I say that these stars aren't like a mobile game rating system. You actually choose the number of stars that you want, and that's actually your difficulty. The difficulty levels up the enemies and also gives you a different amount of gold reward, and sometimes items as a reward as well. A lot of the really good items you can only get on higher difficulty battles, but for now I'm just going to go with difficulty 1. There's also terrain. Every battle takes place on a specific type of terrain, and there are black mana gems that you can match that will have some kind of effect whenever you get at least 10 of them, depending on what terrain you're on. And here is the board. My potions are going to take effect, so everyone's going to have higher stats, which is mainly going to affect good old Knuckles here and Robin, because those are their 2 primary stats. And here we go. Now, here's how it works. These are the dangerous enemies right here, mostly, because as you can see, they have these red borders, and that means that they can match stuff on the board like I can. Enemies without those red borders are sort of passive. Their abilities just kind of go off, whereas enemies with red borders can actually start matching tokens, gems, just like I can. So you also see that there's an almost old-school JRPG-like lane style system where you can put people in like the back row. That decreases the damage they take, the damage they do, and the likelihood that they'll be targeted. So you may want to put your more fragile characters in the back row, but of course fragile characters tend to also be very strong in like burst damage capability, like the assassin here. Very high crit. So I think the first one I want to take down, you can click on an enemy to make sure that your attacks hit them, although some attacks are just deliberately random anyway. I think the Contortionist is probably a good enemy to power down first because she can increase her maximum health repeatedly. So we're going to start off with heavy strength-based hits, which would be the red gems. And then they'll get a turn. And this is probably already looking very familiar to you. If you've played any sort of game like Puzzle Quest or, I don't know, Ironcast or just anything like that, there are lots of these. And on like mobile and things like that, it's similar to that, really. But it's done quite well. It's very pleasant. Games like this can be very relaxing, at least they're relaxing to me. But at the same time, this one involves quite a lot of strategy because of the sheer amount of passives that every character has that you need to take into consideration, and all of the items that you'll be equipped with. Alright. Every purple and white match heals us, so those are a good thing to focus on. Now, the enemies, of course, are also going to be placing these gems down that I need to eventually try and match before they go off, because they're going to do a tremendous amount of damage to me if I do not. Although that could be a little tricky. There we go. If you get a 4 or more match, that is a crit, and you can also get extra turns by doing things like matching 5 gems or getting a kill. And these are wild gems, of course. Now, I'm going to power down this guy because he has, what is that? Staff of Blight. Randomly places a 5-turn Blight gem. 30 single target damage for each point of white mana on the caster's team, up to 300. It drains 1 per turn. That sounds bad. And they have 7. So that's 210 damage every turn. Well, for 1 turn, I guess. Alright, well, we're going to do like some super damage here. And of course, once you get enough mana stored up, there's the Blight Gem, you can use some of your items, like this Ethereal Knife, which is a single target burst damage and a temporary intelligence increase. Well, actually, it's more like a stacking buff. So further, or future, blue gem matches will get even stronger, which makes the assassin very, very powerful. Now, and I could use the dagger, but really I want to save the yellow for the Vorpal crossbow because it takes out an entire row of gems. Does a tremendous amount of damage and is really good for taking out gems that I can't otherwise match, like this, which I'm going to get hit by because there are no green ones near it, and I can't really do anything about that right now. So I'm just going to heal up, try and top myself off, and deal with the damage. Ow. Okay. Luckily they have no white mana, so that Blight Gem is giving them absolutely nothing. Now this is the meme spike. It posts terrible Facebook memes and kills people because of the brain hemorrhages that gives them. Okay, what it actually does is it's like a sort of mental damage type of thing. It does a lot of damage every turn to a random enemy, and if it happens to get matched by the enemy with 2 other purple gems, it does a lot more damage, 580 to all of them. And I absolutely love this item, it's great. Well, this could be a problem. That's a lot of damage that could be coming my way, and I have no way to mitigate it right now. Shoot. Of course, if you do kill an enemy, that if you hover over them you can see that their particular gems that they have placed will sort of wobble. And if you kill that enemy, then all of their gems do disappear. I'll be able to at least get some of these out of the way, hopefully. Yeah, crap. Never mind. Well. Huh. I could really use some more white mana for healing, because that's what this does. A big burst heal. Very useful. I think we can do this to get rid of him. That didn't actually get rid of him. I may have lied. Some of the terrain effects get pretty impressive too, like huge crashing waves or falling rocks, or I've seen a ruins one that actually gets rid of random skill gems on the board like these, depending on which team matches it, which can be devastating actually if you're relying on those to do a lot of damage. This will heal us a little bit, get rid of him, and give us more white mana for healing, and give us an extra turn, so that was the right choice. That's a lot of damage coming our way, and there's just very few green gems on the board. I do like how you can target whoever you want, and you can actually switch your members to the back whenever you want, which is cool. Now, there is a perfect bonus for completing a particular a mission with everyone alive, which is important because the extra gold from that is very useful for leveling up your characters in a timely fashion, and sometimes really, really good weapons and treasures are also locked behind getting a perfect bonus. And the thing about character deaths is, although you may be seeing one very shortly, the perfect bonus doesn't mean that they can't die during a battle. What happens when a character actually falls during battle is a token, a special token will appear on the board that you have to match, and it will revive them. However, it ticks down like this, and if it ticks down all the way to 0, then they're gone for that entire battle, and then you won't get the bonus, and you also won't be able to revive that character. They're gone. until you start the next battle, which is pretty rough because that's 1 out of 4, an entire quarter of your team that you can no longer use. However, one interesting thing about these is that the enemy can also match them, and they will prioritize matching these if they see the opportunity to do so. And if the enemy matches one of these, you need to get these greens down here. This is actually kind of bad. That was a good combo, though. Ow! Here we go. There's one. If the enemy matches one of these, obviously they can't match because they don't have those borders, but then it will not revive your character and will actually make the token disappear. And you see this little thing right here, it says lives left 1 down there. That means that it can be matched once and still reappear somewhere else on the board. But if it gets matched twice by the enemy, it's gone, no matter how many turns it had left. And you aren't getting that character back until you complete the fight, or lose the fight, as it were. Which is rough. The enemy will actively work against you when it comes to attempting to actually revive your characters. There, I got him. Which is actually kind of funny. Alright, let's get some good stuff going on the board here. Because we are not doing so hot in terms of health. Get one of these, or 2 of those actually. Restoration gems, which sound like they would heal you, but they actually don't. That's not what they're for. They give you a bunch of mana, some of that I can use for healing, though. And one of these for healing purposes. Big ol' combo, he's almost done for, and there he goes. Phew! See, I did get the perfect bonus even though one of my characters died, because by the time the battle was completed, they were revived again. And that's how the battle system works. Recognizably simple for anyone that's played one of these, but with actually quite a bit of nuance due to all of the various things that can possibly happen. These blue stars mean that you did not complete the battle perfectly, but you still beat it at that difficulty level, and the gold stars mean that you perfected that battle and got all of the rewards at that particular level. That's pretty much how it works. You'll eventually come across battles that are multiple waves long, and at the beginning of every wave, all of your mana will be reduced to nothing, and unless you have a mana potion, of course, which is exactly what they're for, and you will be required to fight more enemies. A new, fresh wave of them, which can get pretty rough. Let's do another. So, what else does this game actually include? Well, it actually includes a roguelike mode, as it's called, which is interesting. It's separate from the campaign because it's not the sort of default mode that the game is meant to be played in. It's just another game mode that is included, which I think is a really good way to do it. And how it actually works is kind of like what you would expect from, ooh, wow, just hit them up for a crit, for a kind of roguelite-esque progression style of game mode, where it has permadeath. You will go through increasingly tough battles, and as you do, ooh, big crit, yeah, 760 damage, you will go through and actually unlock things in kind of a permanent progression way for the next run. After you die, you will be, that team will be gone, and then you'll have unlocked something for the next run, and so on and so forth. It's very much like a roguelite style of progression. It's actually a lot of fun, and I'm not going to show it to you in this video because I don't want it to go on forever, but I do plan on doing a separate video to show you what the roguelike mode is like, because it's actually enjoyable, really neat that they included that, because it's just something extra that you wouldn't necessarily expect a game like this to have. You'd expect something like this to either be one or the other, if you get what I mean. You wouldn't necessarily... you would expect it to either be a roguelite, and that would be what the whole game was, or a campaign-based match 3 RPG. Not that it would include both of those. But it does. I bet this will do, crazy amounts of damage if I do this. Oh yeah, that was pretty good. And that battle went really, really well. We were under no threat whatsoever there. Yeah. So, that's how it actually works. I've managed to 3-star pretty much the entirety of the last 2 areas and get some really good loot and things like that for it, as well as a good amount of cash that I can use to train everyone up to a high enough level to actually take on the higher difficulties of new areas. And I'm excited to see what all the other characters can actually do. Like, I want my own summoner and blood mage and things like that. The summoners are just really annoying to deal with. They can turn terrain gems, the black ones, into like these golems that slowly, every turn, match themselves, advance themselves up towards you. Ooh, rank 2 beat Stick of Learning. Chronomage's Pocket Watch. Decrease the time left on one countdown gem by 2. Huh. Make one of your own things go off faster. Interesting. And, what are those? Oh god. And once they actually reach you, they do a huge amount of damage to whatever character they actually run into. They're a neat kind of dynamic board interaction, and you can match them with other terrain gems to get rid of them. Or put terrain gems in their way with other matches to make them sort of match themselves. It's actually kind of neat. But they can be a real pain to deal with, and I want one of my own, so I can be a real pain to deal with. And I hope I actually get one eventually. So yeah, and also the game does have dialogue, as I mentioned earlier, with those sort of cutscene-esque areas where your characters talk to each other and figure out where to go next and what to do. And it does have a pretty good sense of humor. It's definitely not going to be a sense of humor for everyone, but it is quite a silly, lighthearted, kind of upbeat game with a, definitely has a sense of humor. So, it's not just a simple package, I guess. There's actually a lot more here than it may look like at first. If you are interested at all in this game, I would actually recommend that you try it out. It doesn't necessarily have like the incredibly high production values of something like Ironcast, for instance, which is made by a much larger team. But it does have, well, not much larger, but a larger team. It does have a good style and very enjoyable gameplay and a lot of sort of tactical decision making. It's almost closer to something like a old school JRPG mixed with match 3 mechanics, which is neat because I've not quite seen something like that before. And yeah, I enjoy it quite a lot because for what it is, it's got a lot going for it. And by a lot going for it, I mean like a 30-hour campaign and that roguelike mode that you can enjoy. So give it a shot. It's going to be available May 19th, though, so, yeah, May 19th, got that right. And that's, I mean, not far away. Give it a shot, and I will, of course, link you in the description below to the page so you can take a look at it yourself. I don't personally know the price yet, but all I can say is May 19th, just like a day after this video is uploaded. It should be unlocking on Steam for people, and then, like a day after that, it'll be ready to go. So, yeah, give it a look. It's actually a lot of lighthearted fun with a surprisingly large amount of content and a lot of sort of tactical battle action, I guess you could say, for a match 3 RPG that the kind that you're not really going to get on a lot of the more gacha style mobile games that do this sort of thing, which is why it's always good to see them on PC. It's a platform that tends to do them differently, and I always appreciate that. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Ow. 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 And I'll see you next time.